Perfect.
All right. Hey, welcome back to the Gonzo Experience. I am David Gonzo Mamano, bringing you a new show every week with just incredible entrepreneurs. And our goal is to get raw and real with just incredible impactors in the world of entrepreneurship. Today, I have in a show, really a great new friend. I've talked to her a bunch of times, and we hit it off. You know those people when you become like instant friends. Well, Mills Bender is one of those people. So, Mills, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me today, Dave. I 100% agree. We hit it off right away, and I'm so honored to be on your podcast here with you today.
Well, thank you. I bet you do that with everybody, though, but I'm going to pretend it's an extra special connection with me. So
it is an extra special connection. It is. There's no pretending needed.
You're very sweet. You're very sweet. So, Mills Bender, you are really a financial helper. I'm going to call you a financial helper because what you have this savant mindset of being really good with money and helping people plan their financial growth. Entrepreneurs, I think it's a focus of yours, helping them get out of debt. And ideally, if they're not in debt, just helping them continue to build that empire brick by brick. I think it's really important for entrepreneurs because a lot of us are, ADHD, we'll say, at least very hyper. And, we're always looking at the next thing to grow, the next thing to build. We really get excited about the whole creative piece of being an entrepreneur, whereas a lot of us will judge the details behind the curtain is drudgery, right? Which is not for you. You love that. But for a lot of people, it's like, oh my God, I got to do the numbers and look at spreadsheets and really get nitty and gritty. And I know that, I start to get hives, right? When I do that stuff. So we need people like you. And this is your focus, right? So, which I love. There's a place for everybody in business, right? And maybe some of the things that a crazy mad scientist entrepreneur does scares the hell out of you, right? So it's a good yin and yang, right? So
absolutely. I mean, and you hit the nail on the head. Not everybody loves looking at numbers the way that I do. And I'm the first person to say that, what I teach is probably not the most glamorous thing out there, but I teach it from a perspective of let's make it as easy as possible, as streamlined and automated. So it doesn't give you hives and you actually look forward to the process and start getting the great results that you're wanting to achieve in your business. So I get it. It's not for everybody, but that's where I step in and I try to make it more fun.
Yeah. Well, everybody should stick to their knitting and then surround themselves with people that, where they don't have the strengths, some entrepreneurs, don't get me wrong. They're very good with finances and God bless them. A lot of them aren't though. Right. And that's where you come in, in your bio, you say you're a financial coach, business owner, speaker, author. Your company is really cool. So your real name is Amelia, but you go by your nickname first since you were 10, I think you said that it's Mills. And your company is Mills Knows Bills, which I love that.
Thank you.
And you're dedicated to helping individuals and business owners how to manage and master their finances. And your claim to fame is that you'll help them, right their ship, stop the bleeding, whatever you want to call it, in 90 days or less. Depending on how much triage there is, right? So, and you started your financial journey a little over 6 years ago. You understand the frustration around money management, struggling where to start, the courage of what it takes to get you to take, ownership of your finances. And that's the key word. Like, don't let, the finances be a surprise. Don't let them control you. Like you need to be on top of the finances, right?
100%.
The past year, you published a book. It's fantastic. I'll talk about that. You have been on NBC6, which is your Miami station. You're in Miami, Florida, right? So, and you've spoken at numerous conferences and you've helped over 50 individuals already help achieve financial freedom. And you donate financial literacy programs to communities in need through the Mills mission. So you're already giving back. So you're very, you're a young business owner. I mean, you are young, but you're also like young in starting a business and you're already giving back. So I think that's super fantastic. And to do that right from the start, that's going to come back to you, right? That's definitely going to come back to you.
Right. And, one of the main reasons I created Mills Knows Bills in the first place was to help people that don't have access to the same type of information that many of us do and can't break out of their poverty cycle as a result. So giving back was just a natural segue when I was starting my business in the beginning. And we can talk about that as we go through it. But, I started my business pre-COVID and was working full time. And then COVID hit and I lost my full-time job. So I really understood the need for a lot of people. I was seeing it everywhere in Miami, the people that desperately needed this financial education. So it was perfect timing.
Well, so you were kind of forced to burn the ships, as they say, and start your business full time, right? So that's great.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Push
yeah,
through the shove.
yeah. Well, some people, they don't know when the time is right.
Right.
Like I have the full time job, I'm getting my business going. There's a lot of fear, anxiety, and taking that jump. But sounds like the decision was made for you. So one of the benefits of COVID,
Definitely.
we'll say, right? I mean, it's forced people to kind of get in their zone of genius one way or another.
I would
So
100% agree.
So a couple quick things, because I want everybody to know that we're going to dig into how Mills it helps you, the entrepreneur, get a hold of your finances. So make sure you listen to the whole episode here, because we're really going to dig into some tactics, some strategies that's going to help you, get a grip. Now, you're not going to be able to do everything in a half an hour, but at least hit the ground running. And I bet you want to call Mills after this. So, but a couple of housekeeping things. So Mills, we were talking before the show, Mills is not your real name. It's actually Amelia.
It is. I'm named after my great nanny.
Awesome. And so how did Mills come to be?
I don't know. I'm one of 6 kids, and as we were growing up, a lot of us couldn't pronounce our older siblings' names. And so nicknames just came as a natural derivative. And Mills was landed on one day. It was either started by my sister or my father. I'm not 100% sure, but it's one of the few nicknames that actually stuck, we'll say.
Well, it's good. It goes great with what you're doing. Mills knows bills.
Yeah,
So,
it's perfect.
you stand out for sure. And we have actually, as you know, I'm here in Rochester, New York. I live in Victor, New York, a suburb, and we have a barbershop called Millsies. And the guy's last name is Mills. So he went with the whole
Awesome.
Millsies theme. So I'm surrounded by Mills one way or another. So my haircuts, my finances. So, and you're in Miami. We talked about that. You're in Miami. And I'm in Rochester, which makes me a huge Buffalo Bills fan. And so may I just say that we kind of had a good day on Sunday.
You guys did. We did not.
Yeah, but we need it here in upstate New York. So you guys have had some good years, but we so thank you for giving us that 35-0 win. And on that note, we'll move on to what you do. Yeah, I gotta gloat. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry.
Take advantage. It's all right. I get it.
You can really have a field day with the weather differences if you want to later. So yeah.
All right. I'll take advantage.
So you help entrepreneurs, whether they come to you, maybe they're struggling, or maybe they're doing okay, they just want to bring it to the next level. What are some of the the first things you do to quote unquote stop the insanity and kind of get them on a path that is in alignment of where they need to be going?
Mm-hmm. Well, the first thing you need to do is identify where you are. And scary enough, a lot of people I talk to don't know for certain where they are. One of the most common phrases I hear when talking with people is, I need to make more money. I always need to make more money. And what they find, number one, is they don't know exactly how much more they need to make. And number two, even when they hit whatever more money it is that they think they need, it's still not enough, right? And the reason is because they don't know where they are. They don't have a clear-cut strategy of what they truly need. So the first thing I do is take inventory of where they currently stand in their finances, which is starting to set a budget. And this is not what they necessarily have been spending on dining out and all of those other variable expenses that maybe aren't necessary, but specifically we focus in on their mandatory expenses, mandatory living, mandatory debt. And then we can add on those other expenses that they want to have. So if we identify in total each month that this entrepreneur needs to be generating at least $5,000 a month to break even across the board, we then set up a strategy of what $5,000 looks like in their business. Is it selling $1,005 products monthly? Is it signing up 2 clients at $2,500 each? We need to put it in tangible metrics for them, because that's the first thing you can do to kind of plug the holes in the boat and keep the water from coming in. You need to give yourself that leg up. And in order to give that leg up, you need to know what that step is.
So a lot of entrepreneurs are just winging it. They really, they think they know it in their head, but it's not on paper, and they're probably way off.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not talking only about their business expenses. You're talking about personal too, it seems like.
Right. Well, think about it. A lot of entrepreneurs, myself included, what I do in my business has a direct correlation to what I can take home. And that ultimately impacts my personal finances too. And for a lot of entrepreneurs, I mean, everyone in general, when you hear of setting a budget, the first thing you think of is income minus expenses minus savings, and then you can spend what's left, right? As entrepreneurs, we make variable income. We can't always say for certain what we can count on in terms of income each month. So if we don't know the starting point, how can we set a budget? Which is why I take that unorthodox approach of actually starting with the expenses, right? If they have enough history with their sales, we then of course use that as a benchmark to see how far are they in their relation to their expenses. But it gives us the opportunity to actually say, well, what lifestyle do we want to be having as an entrepreneur? I don't know about you, Dave, but I did not become an entrepreneur to be working 25/8, right? 24/7, but 25/8, right?
Right.
I didn't. I want to have a better lifestyle than I was having in my 9 to 5 before starting my business. So in order to do that, we have to establish those strategies. So you start with the budget and you compare that to what you have been doing.
Yeah, I became an entrepreneur because I wanted to create something from scratch and be in control of it. Not that I'm a control freak, but I wanted to be in control of, the quality of the product, the standards, the culture, the fingerprint that I left on the world, right? And I think that's the creativity in me coming out. Like I can't paint a stick figure, but my canvas is creating businesses, right? Or now podcasting. Geez, I love it. And so that's my canvas. And so doing something that gives me energy, puts me in the zone of like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and then creating a revenue model around that. Ultimately, it's freedom. It's freedom in the fact that not like I have all this free time, but it's freedom to do the things that I want to do with my life, right? And and then of course behind the curtain, we need to make the cash machine work, right? And that's where you come in. Do you find like where are the entrepreneurs? What stage are they in when they come to you? Is there kind of a common thread of what they're doing wrong, where they are, what they're good at, what they need to stop doing, and just kind of hand off to you?
So I would say that on average, the entrepreneurs that I've been working with have been in business anywhere between 2 to 5 years. That's my average. However, I do have people that have been around for much longer, or I had a conversation with a young professional this morning who is just starting her business. So I do help with all walks of life, but typically they come to me when they realize whatever they're currently doing or not doing is not working, right? And they're tired of it, they're sick of it, and they just want to have that change. And the beauty about what I teach is you don't necessarily need to have me forever, right? I've created the program in a way where you onboard, you do the work, you offboard, and it's established in a way that it can work for you moving forward. I do have some people that like to stick around and they kind of tap into my done for you programs, but I don't typically encourage that right away because I want them to feel empowered with what they have learned so they can see it growing in their business.
That's big. That's big. I mean, you're not like the quote unquote psychiatrist that I'm going to have to go to for life. Like you're going to make me self-sufficient. You're going to make me, set up systems and processes so I could do this. Maybe find somebody to help me part-time on a like a freelance bookkeeper or something. Right. Exactly. But in the meantime, like you're always here. I mean, if I need you, like an SOS call, more training, I come back to you. Right. And just, set up a consultation type of hour or whatever it is to help me retune my financial piano. How do you like that?
Yeah. I like it. I like it. I always say the phrase fine tune.
Yeah, yeah.
budget, but I like your retune of the piano.
Well, we get it fine tuned,
Good analogy.
but then a month later, it's going out of tune again. So we need to come back to retune, right?
Exactly. Well, a lot of people kind of get stuck in the mindset that once you have a budget set, it has to be your end all be all forever.
Yeah.
And that's just not the case. I like to use the analogy of a belt, right? For you and me, right? I can't tell you how many times I put on a belt and I put it through a loop that's a little too tight and I can't breathe, right? And it feels like I'm suffocating.
Mm.
I go to adjust it. Maybe it's a little too loose. My pants aren't really staying up how they need to be until I find that perfect belt loop that's just snug enough to keep my pants up, but not keeping me from breathing the way that I need to breathe, right?
Mm.
It's the same thing with a budget, right? You have to find something that's not too restricting, not too loose, right? You need to make sure that every dollar has a name and it fits your personality, your business, everything perfectly. But as you and I know, as our diets change, our lifestyle change, maybe that belt loop has to be adjusted a little bit, right? Maybe I've lost weight and that belt loop that was perfect before is a little too loose, or vice versa. Same thing with our budget. So having the ability to continually check in with yourself, I say reset your budget, like take a good look at it at least once a quarter when you're setting your new goals to see if what you have as your standard roadmap for your finances still aligns with where your business is at. As entrepreneurs, our lives change very, very quickly in our finances. We need to make sure that our money is continually having that purpose that still fits and aligns with us.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. It made me think about during this pandemic, my belt loop. I've been using the bigger ones more and more.
I think a lot of us have.
The goal is to not get a new belt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Meaning the next size up. So, but no, that's great. It's it's just the whole Goldilocks, just right, right? Or
right.
yeah. So, and that's great. So tell me about your book. You have a new book out, right?
I do. It's right up there. It's actually specifically a workbook around saving. And the idea is to change your mindset on saving. A lot of people think that it needs to be these large lump sums to actually make a difference in your finances, when in reality, the smaller amounts that are saved more consistently have a larger impact. For example, if somebody wanted to save $10,000 a year, $10,000 is a hefty dollar amount, right? People hear that number and they think there's no way I can save $10,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
That's the equivalent of $26 a month or a day. I'm sorry,
A day, right?
26 a month. If you're the type of person who buys lunch out every day, maybe gets a coffee at Starbucks or Dunkin', whatever your vice is, that $10,000 can easily be added up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's big. I know it's easy. I mean, especially with today's prices of food. I mean, you go out to lunch and maybe you get a midday snack. You're spending $20 at least, right? And then
right.
Gas. All these. Are there things that you could do to kind of curtail some of these expenses that are just flying into the air, never to return again, and instead put them in your savings account?
Exactly. And I'm not saying don't dine out, right? Don't put gas in your car. You got to live your life, but it has to be within reason. And when you are establishing that savings goal, let's just say of 10,000, make sure that there's enough conviction behind that savings before you just pull a dollar number out. Right. What does that $10 look like to you? What does that mean to you? I know a lot of people set their goals based off of being able to max out their IRA for the year.
Yeah.
It's 6,000 or 500 a month. So if you don't have enough conviction for it, it's not going to stick, right? But the workbook takes you through 31 different tips for you to try to save money. And the idea is that not all 31 are going to work for you, and that's fine, but try them once. Find the 5 or so that you enjoy doing, because if you enjoy the process, if it's not difficult for you, you're more likely to stick to it, right? One of my favorite tips that I actually use on a daily basis when I go to the store is before I buy something, specifically clothes or shoes or anything besides food, right? I'll take a look at the item and I will place a value on it. I'll say, this coffee cup is worth $5 to me. If I flip it over and the price tag is $5 or less, I'm going to buy it. Of course, if it's in my budget. If it's anything more, it's not worth the dollar amount, right? I'm paying too much for it outside of my value. So that's one of the tips that I talk about. Of course, is 30 other ones for people to try out. But if you make it easier for yourself to stick to your budget, you're more likely to achieve that financial success because you're not getting in your own way.
So speaking of those tips, I always like to give, our listeners and viewers, a few takeaways, right?
Sure.
So if they get nothing else from this incredible podcast, what are 2 or 3 of those tips that they can walk away with?
For saving, I would say establish automatic account transfers. Treat your saving as a mandatory expense in your budget. So embed it into your budget and make sure that you send it from your checking to a savings account specifically for that goal only. Have multiple bank accounts if you need to, but don't mix your goals. I myself have about 6 different personal accounts, right? But they all have a purpose. So make it easy, set it up.
So you don't even think about it. Don't even think about it. It just goes away. It builds. Close your eyes. You can't get to it for easy access. There's no ATM card to it, no debit card. Mm-hmm. It's just compound interest. Close your eyes for 20, 30, 40 years, and then boom.
Exactly. But once you've established your savings, right, I would say definitely amplify your budget, amplify your finances. As entrepreneurs, we often forget to save for our future and invest for our future. We're investing so much back into our business that we're not investing into ourselves as well. You have to put your money to work. Money is the only thing that will work for you 24/7, round the clock for years and years and years, tirelessly. Invest it in real estate, invest it in the stock market, something, but don't let it just sit in your savings account earning less than 1% year over year. You're losing your purchasing power by doing that.
Yeah.
Right. Inflation is 2 to 3% on average. This year alone, it's over 5% last I checked.
Right.
So you are doing your future self a disservice by only saving, right? And then the next thing I would do is look at your numbers often. Look at what you're saving, look at what you're spending, look at what you're actually bringing in, and don't be afraid to look at your finances. I know that's easier said than done for a lot of people, but I promise you, knowledge is power. It is.
Yeah.
And it can't be any worse than it already is, right? So face it head on, have the right support, and get to your financial future. Start building your freedom.
That's great. What are some things that we can do and that you do every day to make sure that we're staying on the cutting edge? Like, I've heard of Dave Ramsey for years, right? But never listened to him. And I just downloaded his podcast yesterday, and I listened to it on my run this morning. That was good. I got some great tips. So I feel like that's going to help me to stay motivated and excited. Working with you, which, by the way, everybody, I'm going to do. So I'm going to let everybody know that I will be a live walking testimonial for Mills very soon as I build the next stage of my business. But what else can we do?
I would say surround yourself with experts. Surround yourself with tax experts, lawyers, financial professionals, right? As you mentioned earlier, this podcast, it's not about knowing all of the right answers. It's about knowing the right people and not being afraid to ask for support and advice. So that's the first thing. I love talking to people in my network. I'm not an expert in taxes. I'm not an expert in rental agreements and things like that. I have people that are experts though, right? The other thing I do daily is I open my bank accounts and investment accounts and I see where they currently stand every single day.
Yeah.
And I look at the balances. Once a week, I sit down and I actually log my numbers. I look at my transactions for the past week for my business and compare it to my budget that I've actually set for the entire month for my finances. And then I make sure that I do some reading, podcast, watch videos, whatever it is. I'm always bringing in new content. Financial literacy, money education is not an arrival point. And I think a lot of people get overwhelmed by that idea, but I'm still learning. In fact, I've read 2 books over the past month that have that's not completely changed my mindset on real estate investing, but a solid 180 because of these books that I've been reading. It's giving me more information. So whatever your preferred avenue of learning, videos, podcasts, books, whatever it is, consistently learn. 15 minutes a day. That's all it takes. Seriously.
What are some of the books that you would recommend for an entrepreneur that's looking to ramp up their financial, literacy, we'll say,
Mm-hmm. I have a lot. I don't know if you can see my bookshelf here.
I can. If you're watching this, she's got an impressive bookshelf behind her.
Mm-hmm. And then I have one in my bedroom that is top to bottom stuffed with books. So
I call that my pile of shame. Those are books that I need to read and they get dusty. But yes, I know what you're talking about.
I love reading. I love reading. So I would say, let's do my top 5. Okay. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You have to read it. It's an oldie, but a goodie. Absolutely fantastic when it comes to changing your mindset on not only financial literacy, but how to actually create wealth, not just being rich, but being wealthy. Mm-hmm. So fantastic. Profit First is a really great book that dives deeper into the multiple use of bank accounts concept that I was talking about. Really good book as well. Not necessarily a finance book, but probably one of like my top 2 favorites. It's Atomic Habits. I don't know if you've read it, Dave.
I do have it, but it's in my pile of shame. Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. Bring it to the top of that pile because Atomic Habits changed how I approach business.
Wow.
100%.
Do you read these or do you do audiobooks?
I like reading. I like the feel of the pages. I like the smell of the book. It's a whole experience for me. Yeah.
No, you're an old soul. I love it.
Yeah, it is. It is. The next book is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a. Mm-hmm,
yes, I have that book too. My daughter borrowed it. One's
really good book. I mean, I knew it was going to be good because I had a lot of people tell me to read it. Blew it out of the water for me.
Right.
Blew it out of the water. And then number 5, Fearless Money Mindset by, what's her name? Arian Simone.
Okay.
That's a quick read. And it talks about no longer being afraid of finding money, right? Yeah. Just kind of going out there and getting it. For, those of you listening or watching who maybe have a religious affiliation, she is a Christian and she talks about that deeply in her book. But even if you can look past that too, if that offends you in any way, it is still amazing. It honestly, one of my favorite books, changed my money mindset too.
Wow.
So those are my top 5 favorites when it comes to being a business owner. I'm sure there's plenty more out there, but
yeah, I just downloaded a book on Audible called The Psychology of Money.
Mm-hmm.
And it's by, I'm looking at it now, Morgan Housel.
Mm-hmm.
And it really is how to think about wealth and how to build long-term wealth more with your mindset and less about investing. Right. And, there's a lot of intangible aspects to it as far as, just the comfort, which is not measurable, but the comfort of knowing that you have money in the bank and you don't need more material goods to be happy. Like you can't really measure that, but that is part of wealth, right? And
it is.
Yeah. And he talks about this great story, and I'm going to mess it up a little bit because I'm almost done with it. And it was in the beginning, but there was a hedge fund guy who by age 40 made so many gazillions of dollars and retired by age 40. And he built this massive house and he kept on expanding it and had all these cars and, certainly wasn't satisfied, even though he had massive wealth, wanted more. And he had a big party. And he talks about how, there was he didn't name it, but they didn't name what the person was. It was a famous author who's written many, many books that we know. And this author had done well right? But not nearly as well as this hedge fund, multi-millionaire. And so this author's friend was at the party with him, and he said, well, how do you feel? Like, you've written all these books, you're world famous. You got this guy comes on the scene and, creates a hedge fund, and he's worth more than you will ever be. And how do you feel about that? And the author said, well, I have one thing that he'll never have. And the friend was like, what is that? And the author said, enough. And I was like, wow, that's powerful, right? Like, the author was like, he had enough. He had enough money in the bank, and he was happy, and he didn't need to have the other car or the addition to his house. And sure enough, as the story goes, this hedge fund guy lost everything in 2008 and 9, and literally was penniless. And I think he even had to go to jail for something. It's a very sad story, but it was an example, like, what true wealth really is. And it's not always about having the most money, And so that would be another one I'll add to your great list.
Yes, I'll have to read it.
Yeah, it's really good. So, and I love that you still love to read the actual book, So, because I don't know your actual age and I won't know, but looking at you, I'm going to say you're still in your 20s. So that makes me happy being, for those that know me, I'm a print guy at heart. I ran a good old fashioned printed magazine for 20 plus years until the digital revolution put it out of business. Right. And, all right, we put it online, I should say. And, but near and dear to my heart is good old fashioned print. And I love reading books. I love reading the smell of that book as well. So
yes. It's just an ethereal experience in and of itself. It kind of transports you directly into the novel, which I could geek out over that all day, but
yeah. Well, I think when you're using your own imagination to fill in the visual of what you're reading, there's nothing like it. That's why the movie is never as good as the book, right? Because when we're reading the book, we're creating the movie in our minds, which is so much more amazing than actually like someone else doing it. So, well, Mills, this has been fantastic. And I love the name of your company, Mills Knows Buffalo Bills. No, I'm just kidding. Mills Know Bill.
That was a good one.
I was introduced to you by Mike DiGiorgio in Buffalo. And so when he first introduced me, I thought, oh, she's a big fan of the Buffalo Bills, but it was not the case. It's more about the money bills. So, but
more about like those dollar bills.
Yeah. So Mills Knows Bills. Tell us, like, well, first of all, thank you for the great tips and the nuggets to hit the ground running.
Yeah.
If any of our listeners or viewers are like me and want more Mills and not more bills, how do we get in touch with you? I should be your spokesman, right?
That was pretty good. That was right.
More Mills, less bills, right?
Love it.
How are they going to get in touch with you?
Follow me on Instagram first and foremost. If you're still trying to hit the ground running, get some free content. You can see videos of me and my dog, and seeing the journey of entrepreneurship myself as well. I keep it pretty open in my Instagram, so you see the good, the bad, and the ugly. But if you are interested in learning anything more about me or what I do, you can email me at Mills, MILLS, at millsb, MILLSB, as in boy or bills.com. And check me out on my website, millsknowsbills.com. I am always posting new content on YouTube, Instagram. You can connect me on your social platform of preference. I am on it, I promise. But yeah, just get in contact with me. Don't be afraid. I don't bite. I promise.
She's very, very friendly. And I think a lot of that's a very good, important point, because a lot of entrepreneurs are ashamed of some of the mistakes they made. They're like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. I'm humiliated. And, let's just say that nothing is going to surprise you.
No.
And you're not going to judge. So
I'm not going to judge. No. Yeah. And also I'll end with this, other nugget of info. Nothing is unfixable.
Love that.
It's not. At the end of the day, money is just money. It is. It's a tool.
Yeah.
And whatever mistake you think you've made, it can be fixed, right? but it's okay. It's not going to be the end of the world. A lot of people put way too much pressure on themselves to be perfect in their finances. I'm not perfect in dieting and fitness. It's not the end of the world, right? Apply that same mentality, right? Consistency is better than perfection.
Yep. You mess up one day, tomorrow's a new day. Right.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Very good. Well, Mills, again, this has been super fantastic. Glad to have you on my podcast and glad to call you a new friend. And again, I'm excited to work with you, and I will be an incredible testimony for you as you help me build my empire brick by brick. So thank you. I'm excited to work with you on that as well.
I'm excited to work with you, and thank you so much for having me. It is a complete honor after seeing all the people that you've had on your podcast too.
Yeah. You're coming right after Ed Milet, Grant Cardone, Ed Milet, and now Mills Bender. How about that?
I am honored to be in that lineup. I really, really am. So thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, I had to bring it to the next level. I mean, who do I have after those guys, right? Come on.
I don't know. It's big shoes to fill.
Yeah. I love it. Well, you did a great job. Very excited to air this and to have this aired. So Mills, thank you so much. I wish you continued massive success. And I really appreciate you sharing some heartbeats with me today.
Of course. You too. Have a good one.
You too. And everybody, thank you, Gonzo family, for listening to the Gonzo Experience. Hey, listen, we have a new episode every Wednesday morning. Make sure to like, subscribe, whatever you do on your favorite podcast app. We're on all of them. Throw me an email, david@davidmamano.com for anything. Love helping you guys. Love helping entrepreneurs. If you want a personal connection to Mills, be happy to do that as well. It'll hold a lot more weight, right? So be happy to do that for you. Thanks again. And make sure to stay awesome.